Now for the curious case of Julius Randle, I did say earlier that the Knicks do have him at an advantageous position, especially at his price point, but we're gonna break this down layer by layer.
We just gonna peel it back layer by layer.
Because like a true surgeon, you gotta take your time when you snipping through those vital organs.
Surgical summer with it. Snip, snip, snip.
So we're gonna hear what Leon Rose had to say about Julius, and we're also gonna hear from Julius Randle himself. And I'm also gonna pull out receipts showing proof that the Knicks do have Julius Randle at a really good advantage. And due to the business model of today's media, a lot of the Knicks fan base is being tricked out of their positioning with Julius Randle. And let me explain it this way. When the media covers the Knicks, it's either they cover them at a high point or a really low point. There's no in between. So when it comes to the Knicks, the business model is either you're trolling the fan base or you're talking about their high points. And this season, the media has figured out that Julius Randle is the trigger point to get the Knicks fans turned up. It's almost like the media have figured out this season that Randle's name triggers the algorithm. So the name of the game all season is to write articles that can trigger the Knicks fan base to go against Julius. That's how you get the clicks. That's how you get the eyeballs to watch all the segments on ESPN, etc. Julius Randle is almost a keyword that triggers a lot of Knicks fans this season. So the media understands that, and that's the business model that's going on right now. Once again, like I said before, you could get tricked out of your positioning. And what I mean by that is that if you guys think back to a rapper named Ja Rule, a guy named 50 Cent had tricked Ja Rule out of his positioning with some of the music and the business model that they had, making all those girly songs that were huge hits, kind of timeless records. But 50 Cent told Ja Rule that he was soft for making those tracks. And then Ja Rule fell for the trick. He stopped making those songs and he focused on beefing with 50 Cent. And by the time 50 Cent won the beef, he ended up trying to use the same business model Ja Rule had by making a song called Candy Shop, trying to appeal to the same exact demo, making those girly songs. Once again, you could get tricked out of your positioning, and your haters tend to see a value that you have that they want. AKA the Knicks fan base is a real basketball fan base, which ESPN want their eyeballs for viewership, and a lot of journalists want them to click on their articles so they can run ads. That's the name of the game. And there's been way too many fake articles this season talking about Julius Randle said he wants out of New York. And it's coming from major beat writers. I seen Bagley write articles. Of course, I seen the mega troll, Mark Berman from the New York Post, going in. Remember, the name of the game is to troll your ass. And they're definitely gonna keep doing that. It's the same way like in ESPN, anytime the Cowboys lose, they have Stephen A. Smith trolling the Cowboys fan base. But best believe when the Knicks are having struggles, they tell Stephen A. Smith put on a better acting job for the Knicks losing than the Cowboys losing. Once again, they tell Stephen A. Smith, you better put on a better acting job for when the Knicks lose than when the Cowboys lose.
You know I'm surgical with this bitch, Jake.
But later on in the segment, I will be providing receipts to show Julius Randle's value to the Knicks, and also the disconnect that the fan base is having from looking at his contract. But first, we're going to see what Leon Rose had to say about Julius and some of his struggles this season.
Julius is a passionate, player. He's a person who, last year everything went right. Obviously, this year things didn't go right, but, he still wound up one of 3 players to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. One of 3 players in the entire NBA. I think that the things that happen on the court, you saw some emotion coming out, you saw some things happening, and I think that, it affected his play at times. And I think that, he felt remorseful for some of those things as he expressed, to the fans in his letter that he sent to them. But he, kept working and worked through it right up until, the end of the season.
Now, Leon Rose had pointed out a crucial mistake Julius Randle had made, in that he showed a weak point. You have to understand, in New York, a slip up like that can end up costing you, because the media is looking for a way to cause a rift between you and the fan base. And going back to Carmelo Anthony, he spoke on this. As lucky for him, he had a wife that had experience in the New York media landscape, and she possibly schooled him into having composure while he's playing for the Knicks. because she already had many years under her belt dealing with the New York media landscape. Like I said before, we're gonna peel this back layer by layer.
We just gonna peel it back layer by layer.
I just got to do what I got to do. Like I'm not gonna. I know the media. I know what's happening. I know what they doing. I'm in it. You know what I'm saying? I know what they say. It's 100 of them at practice every single day, right? And you hear the whispers and you hear this, and so I just knew. I knew what I was up against. I knew no matter what, they was gonna have something to say.
That's Melo right there, acknowledging the business model. He understands. Just peep. And Julius Randle, being a Texas boy, he might have just started understanding this season what this media landscape in New York is all about.
Right. So it's just like, just go play ball, enjoy it, have fun. Don't never let them. Don't let them see you sweat. You know, even if it's bothering you, fuck it. Like, get through it. You know what I'm saying? So I started rallying my teammates like that and giving them that same mentality. Like, look, this media, they against us at the end of the day. And as you can see, what's happening in front office, what's happening with, you know, with PJ, we got to leave that alone. Like, we have to play. And they started getting, it was like a rally cry. You know what I'm saying? It was like a speech, like, yo, we got to go, man. Look, it's us against New York media. It's us against our own organization, because we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on. So imagine the mindset that you have to have and the courage and integrity you have to stay in that, to deal with that. I'm talking about, you scored 35, you're getting booed. If you don't, you know, you miss your first 3 shots, you're getting booed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that was the culture, and not everybody can handle that.
Melo right there giving us an inside scoop on how it is to be in that doghouse. He said it was the whole squad versus the New York media, and even against their own organization. But good thing for Julius Randle, he has the backing of his organization. Leon Rose and Tibbs is on his side on this. But once again, listen to Melo speak about how he had to rally the whole team against the media. We're not talking about just anybody. We're talking about a guy who was marketed when he came to New York as New York's own. Brooklyn-born Carmelo, a guy that's beloved by the city. We're not just talking about anybody. Listen to how he had to rally the troops against the media. That's how toxic the environment can get.
You know what I'm saying? So I started rallying my teammates like that and giving them that same mentality. Like, look, this media, they against us. It was like a rally cry. You know what I'm saying? It was like a speech, like, yo, we got to go, man. Look, it's us against New York media. It's us against our own organization, because we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on. So imagine the mindset that you have to have and the courage and integrity you have to stay in that, to deal with that. I'm talking about, you scored 35, you're getting booed. If you don't, you know, you miss your first 3 shots, you're getting booed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that was the culture, and not everybody can handle that.
You know, just like Melo in his previous seasons with Phil Jackson while being in New York, Julius is sort of dealing with the same situation with Leon Rose, in which Rose, in his interview, he actually acknowledged that Julius did have a burden this season, because once again, the gamble that Leon Rose took on Kemba Walker backfired. So the Knicks played the whole season without a point guard, thus causing Julius Randle to have the ball in his hands just a little bit too much. He kept receiving the ball at the 3-point line or just completely out of position. No one really set him up, and then they forced him to be the creator. And this is happening all at the same time when the league had just changed the defensive rules, thus making it harder to score. And unlike the bubble season, teams are now getting enough time to practice. Let's keep in mind that was not happening during the bubble season. Teams were not practicing as much due to the COVID restrictions.
I think that it was just not being comfortable at times. I mean, it was just not being comfortable. He gave it his best effort, you know, and he, you know, just the 3-point shot didn't go like it did last year. I think teams keyed on him more this year, and he had, you know, make some adjustments and carried a big burden. But I was proud of the fact that he did fight through it. Julius loves it here in New York, wants to be in New York.
Now, a great follow-up question could have been, would a point guard alleviate some of those uncomfortability issues that he had? But once again, Leon Rose had an in-house MSG interview, and he's really not going to get those tough to answer questions. But a lot of Julius Randle's issues this season has been from that Kemba Walker fallout. Just that plan just not working out at all. And when you combine that with Derrick Rose only playing for 6 weeks, man, you got a disaster in your hands, man. But it's very unfortunate throughout this whole interview with Leon Rose, he was not questioned about the Kemba Walker gamble that ended up backfiring on the Knicks and causing a domino effect on the rest of the team, aka RJ's inconsistency in the beginning of the year, Randle not actually getting the ball in his position, having to be the facilitator for almost the whole season, especially after Derrick Rose went down. Just him not being questioned on that and what's the next move on getting this corrected, because it is having an effect on the rest of the squad. Even Evan Fournier could end up being a better player if we get a proper point guard to distribute the ball. But once again, we must acknowledge through a lot of media games, they have put all this stuff on Julius Randle's shoulders instead. That's pretty much the burden that he referenced to in the last soundbite that I played. But these media games are nothing brand new. Pinning players against fans or just players on the same team against each other. Ward Frazier actually references during the broadcast as the media back even in his day tried to pin him and Willis Reed against each other. The same way, kind of subconsciously this season, they're trying to pin Obi Toppin against Julius Randle.
The other thing, Mike, that I think people are overlooking when they talk about Toppin and Randle, they have them as competitors. They're not competitors. They're on the same team. So they could be good together. And I think Toppin was alluding that he and Randle have discussed that, playing together at times with different lineups. So, you know, the fans are seeing them as, you guys see them as competition. Like Earl Monroe came to the Knicks, we're not competitors, man. We're on the same team. So we got to bring out the best in each other.
When the trade was announced, people said there's no way Clyde Frazier and LeBron Monroe could play in the same backcourt together.
Right, we need 2 basketballs. I heard you were one of them, Mike, but I didn't know that against you.
You know, it's a very unique thing and it's a very unfortunate thing at the same time, but you got to look at culture. And on the East Coast, it's either one guy got to climb up to the mountaintop and another man falls. We don't tend to think in collaboration. It's either RJ Barrett rises and Julius Randle falls. It's never both of them can rise at the same time. And subconsciously, a lot of the fan base, they think like this. And sometimes it's not our fault because in New York City, that's how it tends to be. It's a constant competition for everything. Once again, that's why I say the culture is very important. And that tends to be an East Coast thing. We don't tend to think of things in collaboration. And we almost do this subconsciously. And this brings me up to my next point. And boy, this is tricky. Because on a subconscious level, a lot of the fan base have a disconnect on the value of Julius Randle's contract. But when it comes to Julius Randle's contract, subconsciously, a lot of Knicks fans think it's a max deal. Even though some of them know that it's not a max deal. And at the same time, they're expecting max deal performances out of Randle. Anything less is absolute garbage in their minds. And once again, all this is happening subconsciously. That's why the vitriol makes perfect sense. But boy, I'm not lying when I say this shit gets tricky. Because even the most acknowledgeable Knicks fans can get put in a trick bag on the value of Julius Randle's contract. And one guy I'm referring to is CP, the franchise from Knicks Fan TV. He's doing a great job. You guys should definitely check out Knicks Fan TV. But he definitely did an interview on one of Bill Simmons' podcasts in which he talked about Julius Randle, but then subconsciously, once again, he had mentioned him as if he's a max player. That's how deep these media games run, that they can throw you into a trick bag and you could be tricked out of your position, because later on I will pull up receipts on how valuable Julius Randle's contract really is, especially for the output that he's given us.
Because what we've seen here thus far this season, or as the season wraps up, what we've seen is that when his offense is impacted, his defense has been impacted. His effort has been impacted as a result. And
that's the last thing you want. You never want that. You never want that.
And so as a result of that, combined with the max contract, the pressures of building on last year's success, I think it's impacted him mentally.
Now, CP, the franchise from Knicks Fan TV, he knows Julius Randle's not under a max contract. But that was his subconscious right there talking. And I've been noticing this the whole season especially when I'm talking to some of you fellas on the live chat, 8th Avenue Conversations. Definitely check out the email list below to get notifications on that. But during the live chats, a lot of guys, even after I told them Julius Randle is not under a max deal, they still subconsciously, when making their points afterwards, still mention that his output has to match a max salary player, even though I consistently point out that he's not even a top 40 paid player in the NBA. And for those of you fellas that are watching the video version, this is where I'm gonna pull up the receipts. Now first, as you can see, a tweet from Fred Katz. He does a good job covering the Knicks. He officially posts Julius Randle's numbers. And keep in mind, these numbers are in a season in which the Knicks have no point guard. So Julius Randle has been playing out of position, and he still put up almost 20 and 10 and 5. Of course, his efficiency, it should be down because he's playing out of position. He keeps getting the ball in these tight spots. He's not getting the ball in stride going to the hoop. So remember, these are the numbers that we're getting from Randle, and we're going to correlate this according to his contract versus other people that's getting paid around the same pay range.
We just gonna peel it back layer by layer.
Now, as we can see here, Julius Randle for this season is the 47th highest paid player in the NBA. And we gotten 20, 10, and 5 out of him. Now, if you look at some of the players right next to him, Buddy Hield, John Collins, Malcolm Brogdon, Tim Hardaway Jr., Draymond Green, DeRozan. Of course, the Bulls are winning with that DeRozan contract. Jaylen Brown's a little bit higher than him. But if you look at that media circle where he's at, in between John Collins, Buddy Hield, Brogdon, Tim Hardaway Jr., Mike Conley, we've gotten plenty of output for the money that we're paying him. Now, what makes this even better is that the longer his contract goes, the more the salary cap increases every single season. So his contract, in comparison to the league salary cap, keeps getting cheaper and cheaper every single season, because the other players that are going to sign new contracts every year going forward will sign for higher deals. So his number being 47th highest paid player this season, he's actually going to keep going down that list every other season because the cap is going to keep getting higher. So we're going to get Randle at a discounted price. Even if you compare it to his later years where he's getting paid $25 million a year, $27 million a year, and $29 million a year. If you compare that to the guys that are getting it today, Gordon Hayward, Jamal Murray, Brandon Ingram, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell, that's a rookie scale contract extension. Bam from Miami, Jason Tatum. That contract is not that bad because by the time those years kick in, Randle's probably going to be the 60th highest paid player because all the new players coming in, or just whoever comes up with a contract renewal for the veteran players or the mid-tier players, they're going to get paid more than Randle does. Once again, the more years that go by with Randle staying on the Knicks, the more we get him at a discounted price because the cap keeps going up. And it's important not to fall for the media tricks here because Randle's putting up 20, 10, and 5 in a season in which he has an incomplete roster with no point guard. This is what I mean when I keep saying the media could put you in a trick bag and trick you out of your positioning, because you can even look at Jalen Brunson. He qualifies close for what Randle's going to make next season. He could get anywhere from $18 to $23 million a year. And that's just for next year's signing of a free agent class. The year after that, players like him could qualify for more money. So once again, every single season that goes by, Randle's contract in a way becomes a discounted contract. And the only reason that this is happening is due to Magic Johnson's fuck up when he was the president of the Lakers. Once again, the Lakers are the most successful dysfunctional franchise in NBA history. And the Knicks can capitalize off the Julius Randle mistake that they made by letting him go after the 4th year. Because Randle, even after his great performance in 2020 for the Knicks, did not qualify for a super max due to him leaving the Lakers in that 4th year. So once again, the Knicks do have Julius Randle locked in for all of his prime years at a discounted price as long as he stays within the team for the next 3 to 4 years, as his salary every single year into his contract really gets cheaper versus the Knicks salary cap. Hopefully this creates a good visual for some of you fellas to see the value in Julius Randle's contract. especially Julius being a guy who's been putting up at least 19 and 10 for 6 seasons prior to signing this deal. He's already a player that's kind of a proven concept that he has a certain stature that he can maintain, which is hovering around being that 20 and 10 guy. Because there's going to be players like Jalen Brunson, who does not really have that many years of proof of concept, who's going to sign a deal close to Randle's deal this summer. Once again, if you look at Julius Randle's high points of his contract for 2024, 2025, if you put it in a 2022 ranking, it would only equate to about being anywhere from around the 34th to 40th rank highest paid players in the NBA. So can you only imagine when those years come around, Randle's going to be all the way at the bottom. It's probably number 60, close to being number 70 as far as being the highest paid player. So this contract is really favorable. Yeah, so a lot of the hate is just really coming from the idea that people have in the back of their minds that Randle's under a max contract. And even though if people see the numbers and understand that we have him at a favorable deal, they'll still hate Randle. The same way the media was still throwing out articles about Julius Randle in the last 2 weeks of the season, even though he didn't play or touch the court at all. I found that very ironic. There was a lot of Julius hate, even though he didn't touch the court in the last 2 weeks of the season. That's how strong that shit is. And those same haters will be the same people that'll tell you the Knicks should start Frank Ntilikina at point guard.
You talking about you upset.
And some of those haters are going to have to let the 2020 bubble season, they got to let that go, man. That was a once-in-a-lifetime season. Julius did put up great numbers, but his numbers this season weren't that far away from that previous season. Even though the league did change the defensive rules, the only thing that went down for Julius was pretty much his efficiency, and that's because, once again, we had no point guard. But once again, for those of you watching the video version, as you can see, points-wise, Randle's only down 4 points per game. His efficiency as far as shooting threes and his overall field goal percentage is down, but his assists and rebounds are almost similar. So once again, once we get that point guard role filled up, Randle should go back to being his old self. Maybe his efficiency might go up, but I don't really expect him to average 27 points per game, especially when the Knicks have new additions on the offensive end, guys like Evan Fournier and RJ Barrett coming into his own. Randle's numbers should hover similar to what they were this season, but his efficiency should be a lot better. You know, with Julius sitting out the last 2 weeks of the season with an injury, it still didn't stop article after article dropping on Julius about how the Knicks should get rid of him or he's asking for a trade. But Julius actually spoke directly with the media and he answered some really tough questions. And it's always good to hear directly from Julius, but they're playing a lot of nasty media games. And I started to understand how bad the situation really is with the last few weeks of the season. Like I said, Julius was out the picture, but that did not stop the hate. So Julius was asked about him wanting a trade out of New York, and this is what he had to say.
There was a I'm sure you heard about it. There was a local radio guy who said that after Monday's game, you went to management and demanded a trade. I was wondering what your response to that was.
Who said it?
David Cartman at WFAN.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not crazy. That's not crazy. A major radio station could say this about Julius Randle, that he went to management and asked for a trade, and nobody ever says anything. Like, yo, you fucked up. How can you just say that out the blue?
Not true, bro. It's just not true. It's as simple as that, bro. It's just not true at all.
I know you said a few maybe months ago that you want to be here long term.
If it ain't come from me, it ain't true.
How committed are you still to?
My answer ain't changing, bro.
And this is the trick bag they try to put you in. Once again, the business model of the media, especially in New York, is to find that weak point that triggers the Knicks fan base and exploit that. And this season they figured out is Julius Randle. We're basically going to troll the Knicks fan base about Julius Randle because we understand that gets them emotional and they're going to click on the articles and we're going to run ads, and that's how we're going to get them. We're going to get the eyeballs and clicks that exact way. It's basically easy money for them.
Easy money.
Now, Randle was asked if his relationship with the fan base is strained, and pay attention to the way they asked the question. It's almost like if he fully answered it, it was like a double trap either way. Pretty much the games that they play.
It did look last year, Julius, like you had a great relationship with the city and the fan base. This year it does, from the outside looking in, it does look a little strained. Would you at least agree with that assessment? And if so, why is it different?
Probably something you should ask yourself, man. I'm not really sure.
You don't agree with that?
I mean, I'm cool, bro. Like I said, my goal and what I work hard for is to make the city proud, to make the fans proud. I play for my teammates, play for my family, and it's as simple as that, bro. Like it's nothing more than that. So from the inside looking out, it is what it is. And I understand that a lot of times you got to just kind of let your game do the talking and go from there. But like I said, man, I love the city. I love my family loves it here, and I'm a Knick. That's what I love. I love being a Knick. So
yeah, I think Julius, he's finally understanding what this media game is all about. That's why he made that comment from the inside looking out. Julius is starting to pick up on the game, on how this all works in New York. And it'll be interesting to see if he hollered at Carmelo Anthony, man, to get some game, because Melo definitely had great composure while being in New York. Now, Julius Randle was asked a question about his son being at the games, and sometimes he would have to leave or not attend the games due to all the heckling. And this, to me, is the most important part, because we have to keep in mind that these guys are human. As we've seen this year play out with Will Smith, these guys have emotions. They're human. Just because they get millions of dollars through the media or they're famous, it doesn't absolve them from some sort of humanity. I feel like sometimes people lose touch base with these things. It's very unfortunate. But Julius Randle, I believe this is the biggest part of some of his struggles this season. Some of the treatment his family members have been getting. I've seen it online to the point where they're even coming after his wife, even though she just had a baby. And they're making comments about his kid, which is crazy. But just going back to some of his family members, particularly his wife, just being a man, and a lot of us have to deal with our ladies, man, especially if our ladies look decent. Them being on social media, it kind of affects their moods at times, and I'm pretty sure all the heckling that she's been receiving online has been an issue that's been brought up to him countless of times. I mean, sometimes us fellas, we don't really pay attention to things on social media as much as our ladies do. And sometimes things tend to spill over in real life due to the fact that a lot of our ladies love the social media thing. And of course, we're going to have to hear about it all the time. And I'm pretty sure he's been hearing about it all season long. It could just be her posting a simple picture of their newborn baby and then people making reckless comments. So once again, even though I'm pretty sure Julius don't give a fuck about social media, but him being like the rest of us fellas, sometimes we get pulled in because our ladies are so attached to it. Once again, these guys are only human.
These athletes, by the time they get to where you are probably used to hearing cheers, boos. But is it hard sometimes? I know your family is always there, front court, center, right there. Is it hard to know that they're there and hear that when it's not?
I mean, that's probably where most of my frustration comes from. I got my 5-year-old son that's there and is obsessed with the game of basketball and loves the game of basketball, and he doesn't understand what's going on. And that was probably my biggest frustration. Coming from him, the time that I sacrificed from him to put into this game, and he's daddy's little boy. He loves his dad. So
that's interesting right there. He said the time that he sacrificed away from his kids in order to put in work to please the fan base, and the fan base is going ahead and talking shit about his kid. That's gotta hurt. Once again, these guys are human, and we gotta take some of these things into consideration. And once again, a lot of the fan base, they're falling for the trolling of the media. Because once again, the business model is to troll the Knicks fan base and not covering them necessarily. It's trolling them into an emotional state so they could click on the articles, and so the media companies could basically run ads.
For him to experience that and, you know, him being uncomfortable and, you know, having to leave the games and stuff like that. As a father, that's what bothered me more than anything. But, like, at the same time, like, you got to understand it comes with the territory.
And that's the unfortunate thing. It should not be like that. That comes with the territory being in New York. That's what he really meant. And if that's the perception that a lot of players have of New York, it's going to be hard to get free agents to come here. That's a realization that the fan base has to come to.
At the end of the day, the narrative can always, you know, flip. So I understand that. I understand it's New York City. I understand that's just what comes with it, and I understand how passionate our fans are. So you just kind of got to live with the good and the bad.
Yeah, when things are great, they're really great. But like Melo said earlier in the segment that I played, a lot of it has to do with the media. The media is playing a lot of games. And not only do the Knicks have to go up against their opponents every single night, they have to go up against the media every single night. And it's very unfortunate. But once again, Julius Randle is under a favorable contract by the Knicks. But this season, it's been revealed that Julius Randle's name is a trigger point to run ads and get clicks and write bullshit articles. And it's a very unfortunate thing. And to my fellow Knicks fans, is it me or did Julius Randle this season take more heat than LeBron James? I mean, LeBron James was able to choose Russell Westbrook and have another player, Anthony Davis, which equates to 2 players that made the NBA All-75, but yet they couldn't draw a better record than the Pelicans and Spurs. But it seems like Julius Randle took more heat than they did. I mean, damn.
Surgical summer with it. Snip, snip, snip.
Just keep in mind, while Julius Randle was taking heat on a Knicks team with no championship expectations, the media was still painting the picture that the Lakers would be fine going into February to make the playoffs. But it's very odd, man. I feel like Randle took a lot more heat than LeBron James did this season. Very interesting times that we're in. Keep in mind, LeBron James has missed the playoffs 2 out of the 4 years being in LA. So to all my fellow Knicks fans, don't let the media trick you out of your positioning of having a favorable contract with Julius Randle. Of course, they're going to dick ride the Lakers all the way, but the reason why Randle doesn't qualify for a Supermax contract is because of the dysfunction of the Lakers. Keep in mind, the Lakers are the most successful dysfunctional franchise in sports. And right now with Julius Randle's contract, the longer the Knicks stay in it, the more beneficial it is for them. So the Laker dysfunction is still paying dividends for the Knicks even to this day. So having a guy that can get 20 and 10 and him not even breaking the bank for the highest top 40 players paid, it says a lot, man. Once again, don't let them fool you and trick you out of your positioning. So to my fellow Knicks fans, your energy is one of one. It can't be duplicated or faked. And it's definitely not on some bandwagon shit like the Lakers.
Surgical Summer Volume 1.